I'm realizing we don't have any Quentin Jammer highlights in that intro. And after this weekend, I guess it's probably a good thing, huh?
Sometimes it's okay just not to talk.
Yeah. Well, nobody asked him to say. I don't know why we're starting the show off like this, but nobody asked him to do that. He
Mm-mm.
just all of a sudden was like, "Hey, man, I was drunk during games on a Sunday, by the way, during prime football time."
Whew.
He's ridiculous. But anyway,
Oversharing.
what's up, guys?
Yo,
Welcome. We're here. The day after a crazy overtime win against the Eagles. They win 22-19. Chargers go to 9-4. The Eagles fall to 8-5. Just probably close to the game of the year across the NFL. Definitely the best Charger game so far this season. Even with the division wins, this was just poetic. And by the way, knocking the Chiefs' playoff hopes down to 10% after this win. So that all helps as well. So, Craig, where do you want to begin here? Because there's a lot to go over.
dude, I still haven't quite grasped what
Yeah.
took place last night. I said it once, I'll say it again. In the words of great Looney Tunes gangster, I don't know how you've done it, but I know you've done it.
Yep.
And that's essentially what took place last night, man. Let's be honest. Long-suffering Chargers fans know that that's a game that the Chargers historically lose. Let's be honest here. We've actually said this a few times this year, to be completely honest. But this was one of those where I'll speak for myself. Personally, there were a few occasions where I thought it was over.
Yes.
Right after the Saquon Barkley 50-yard TD, I was just kind of like, yeah, all right. Because a 3-point lead in that game at that point felt like it might as well have been 14. But for the Chargers to be able to do what they did and come back, I mean, I really don't know where to start. I guess we can just let's start first and foremost, because we know that the defense did it again. But we also know that every week the defense pretty much has to show up in this fashion. Let's just get this out of the way. Justin Herbert is a freaking warrior. And what you know, just by perusing social media and some of the broadcasts this morning, I heard a lot of this stuff, but you know how the Justin Herbert story goes. You can tell who actually watched the game and who looked at the box score. It becomes very, very, very evident because this wasn't a stats game. This is about who could make the plays when they were necessary to lead their team to a victory. One quarterback was able to do it with a broken hand and multiple other issues. That's not to say that Jalen Hurts didn't have his own things to contend with, but I mean, we could venture to say and be fairly accurate when we say that his trials and tribulations were not to the degree that Herbert's were. But again, in the very end, Herbert was able to do what he's done several times, as we can see if you look at his history with regard to comeback wins, or at least leading his team into positions where they should win the game, and then for some reason or another, it not being closed out, not always because of him, but he just adds another pellet, to the belt at the end of the day. And I'm just proud to have this guy as a QB. Has he won a playoff game yet? No. Has he reached the heights that we feel like he can? No. But this is the second year of him with Jim Harbaugh, and I don't think it's a coincidence that we're starting to see more and more performances where when the numbers don't necessarily look the way that you want them to, where they're not super gaudy, but what he is doing is being timely and making the plays when they matter. And this is something that, again, historically, we are not accustomed to as Chargers fans.
Yeah, and I think you're right. We'll definitely get to the defense because they were a giant factor in this. But Justin Herbert was crazy. The fact that he early on was still kind of taking hits, and then towards the end of that game decided he wanted to stiff arm with that robotic hand, whatever why he would do that, I'm not sure, but that's just who he is. And then we find out after the game that option play to Vidal, where he decided to take it and run with it, was not on the call sheet. It was supposed to go to Kamani the whole time, but Herbert saw an opening, took it, and ran with it, and got the first down. And that's what you want in your quarterback, is to be able to call those kind of option plays, or at least go down and drive and make those plays that you need when you need it. And Herbert did it. And he ended up, he had an interception, he had a fumble, he passed for under 150 yards. I know he had the one touchdown to Hampton, but not a totally stellar day. Not also his fault. It felt like he was under duress. I think it was like 4 seconds or whatever it was, but
72% of his dropbacks, he was
yeah,
under pressure.
yeah, yeah. And whatever the time was, like he was under pressure, an average of 4 seconds or whatever. It felt like 2. It just felt like as soon as he caught that ball, he had to just try to make something happen on his own. And I don't know what you do. This offensive line's an issue, and there's real no fix for it. And hopefully, an extra week of Bobby Hart can help. But I don't know. This is going to be it's still a tough sled, but to win in this fashion against the Eagles, who were starting to kind of go down the hill a little bit, but to make sure that they didn't throw that game away, because it did feel like a game that the Chargers would throw away, especially at the end of the game when they converted a 3rd and 16.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was an offsides, went away, and it just felt like it was starting to kind of fall that way, where it was hopefully they didn't let them get in the end zone, and then to get the turnover at the very end for Monk was huge. But man, Justin Herbert was amazing, even with the little bit of passing yards he has. I think the biggest completion of the day was that little drop off to Kamani that went for 60. But yeah, man, Herbert was crazy good today, and hopefully with each week, the hand will get a little bit easier to deal with. He'll get a little bit more comfortable with it, and hopefully by playoff time, which they're the 5 seed at the moment, once they hit the playoffs, hopefully he'll be closer and closer to being better with that hand.
So yeah, definitely giving credit on that 60+ yard catch and run to Vidal. For Herbert extending the play first and foremost, avoiding pressure and being able to get that dump off. My favorite play was in the second quarter. I think it was like on 3rd and short. He hits Trey Harris for 18 on one of those big time cross body throws that he does. It feels like once a week he makes one of these ridiculous throws, but the placement of that ball essentially into what almost ended up being double coverage. It shouldn't be a thing, but he does it with such regularity and such accuracy. At this point, it's almost just kind of like, oh, another great Herbert throw, another dime. And I don't want people to take this for granted, because that's not typical. And then also consider the fact that we have to not make light of this. The man had surgery a week prior to this game.
Mm-hmm.
He plays quarterback, and he could only utilize one hand. Here's my problem in general with the whole anti-Herbert sentiment. And I had this discussion, believe it or not, before we even hopped on the pod. I was on my way back from work, and I had a conversation with my dad. It was almost an hour-long conversation because he's a big Jalen Hurts guy. I had to tell him like that, look, I think Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I think he's good, but he's also been very good because of all the requisite pieces around him and the fortune that he finds himself having in multiple high-level players to support him.
Mm-hmm.
But the second you took some of those pieces away from him, which we've seen now over the last few weeks with injuries on the offensive line, things look a little different. Meanwhile, you got this cat on the other side with the lightning bolt on his helmet, who's essentially had to do this for the entirety of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You can go back in other seasons and look at similar situations, but all of the things that he has to overcome to still pull off wins like this, when other QBs do it or they can't do it, there's a reason why they can't do it. When Herbert can't do it, we're making excuses for him. You get what I'm saying? So there's not a level playing. It's not judged the same way. What he's doing this season, although the numbers may not look like the most spectacular numbers he's had throughout his career, like we've seen multiple games now with under 200 yards passing. The point here is that, and Harbaugh says all the time, a lesser man couldn't do it. And at this point, I'm thoroughly convinced it's just not lip service. Guys don't do what he's doing every week, dealing with what he is, and have very much success. It's just the guy's the honest truth. So overall, again, without hyping him up too much, because I'm not trying to do that, I just want us to be honest. although we don't have the overall success that we want at this point, although he does not have a playoff win, which we admit, and nobody's like, backing off of that. We want to see him be successful. You have to at least be objective and look at all the things that he consistently has to deal with almost for the better part of his entire 5-year career to this point.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, who else could do this and have very much success? So he's actually ascending in the way that he's having to continue to handle the game mentally and overcome all of these issues. And I think eventually it's going to pay off. And we're in year 2 of the Jim Harbaugh era, and you're seeing a team now win games that in the past they typically wouldn't. Now, if we're being completely honest, this team is 9-4 and it's a miracle, but they should technically be 11-2 if we're being honest. I mean, there's no reason why they should have lost to the Commanders, no reason why they should have lost to the Giants, no good reason at least. So there's a very real chance this team could be 11-2 in a situation where they're all tied up with the Broncos, and we're having an even more different conversation than what we are right now. But there's still a very good possibility for them to make a run into the playoffs. Now, what happens when they get there, that's anybody's guess. But the fact that they're having any real success right now should tell you not just about the quarterback, but the overall leadership on this team, and that there's absolutely been a culture change, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, sure. It felt like as soon as, and it was early on when Herbert went under center and just was like, I don't care about any of that, because the problem was they were talking about all week that Trey Lance may take some, goal line snaps if he's got to go under center and it's, short yardage situations. But Herbert, it felt like the 3rd or 4th snap of the game went under center, and we saw him do it a couple times throughout the game and never had any issue. So the whole like being a Superman narrative feels like it rings true like more and more as his career progresses on, because it isn't just and granted there's no playoff wins and all that stuff, but just in terms of his success as us here and everybody else watching, knowing every game that Herbert plays somehow finds a way to win, and all the come from behind wins and making stuff out of nothing, even with a terrible coaching staff and offensive line and a bad defense at one point and all the things in between, still having a somewhat successful career on top of now, going 9-4 now up to this point, where once it felt like Alton Slater went down, it felt like they had no business being in games very often, but somehow in some way, Herbert does it every single time. And he did it again last night. And I don't know that we have any real answer here for the offensive line, because I don't know what they're going to do going forward with this, because whether it was and Andrew in the chat said it was 71% of dropbacks he was pressured in the 3rd quarter. By the end of the game, it was 68%.
Gotcha. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
So yeah, maybe Bobby Hart has a little bit to do with that, but I don't know what there just isn't an answer right now. They're just not going to go away from Bradley Bozeman, who again was just terrible, and is going to get Herbert killed at some point. And by the way, every time an offensive lineman hits the ground, it is never Bozeman. I don't know what kind of, as you say, vibranium he is made out of, what is going on with him in general, but I'm not wishing an injury on anybody, but they definitely need to fix their center spot at some point, and it doesn't feel like it's ever going to be this year, even with Andre James, who played pretty well in his short duty in garbage time. But it just, that I think that question will be answered here very shortly, because there's going to be, we talked about this gauntlet going forward, and Chris Jones wrecked shop last week, and it just feels like you have Chris Jones up against a guy like Bradley Bozeman and this interior in general, from Zion to Becton. It's going to be a pretty tall task for those 3 in the interior, and I don't know what they're going to do from here, but we're going to find out pretty short.
Other than the offensive line, because we can talk about Bradley Bozeman and the fact that he looks like he's at a picnic every week. I've never seen an offensive lineman on his butt this often, this frequently, every week. I truly don't understand it. I think the dude was a very successful, I think he's like a 4 or 5-star high school recruit, really good player in college at Alabama, and just nothing in the NFL, but it goes like that sometimes. Outside of the offensive line, You're telling me your quarterback had hand surgery a week ago, and this was the best protection plan you can come up with, Greg Roman? Like, I try to give Greg Roman a little bit of bail every few weeks. Like, he'll do a somewhat decent job, but then, like I always say, one step forward, two steps back. I can't for the life of me figure it out. I think I counted at most 2 play action passes. I didn't see like really any RPO. There might have been like 1 screen pass, like no sprint outs, nothing to move the pocket to help protect Herbert. Uh, and again, I understand they didn't do a whole lot under center. I don't know if he took any under center snaps at all. I don't recall off the
Herbert?
top of my head. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he did.
Okay. Okay. So I think I counted 1, 2 max play action passes. What really confused me is the fact that when the running game, because it was kind of hit or miss, you saw that the linebackers were selling out for the run. Once you had 1 or 2 successful runs, why wouldn't you try the play action shot? Because the other thing you realized was the Philadelphia Eagles secondary is so good, specifically at corner, that your best 2 wide receivers were complete non-factors, and there were no easy buttons to get them the ball. Greg Roman just expected them to go and win on routes where there was little to no spacing. The splits and spacing were horrible throughout the night. There were multiple routes ran in the same area. There was one play where was it QJ and Keenan Allen that got knocked into each other and fell down and killed the entire play.
Yeah.
The problem here is that I get that Greg Roman is Jim Harbaugh's buddy, but look, save your friendship away from the field. Y'all can handle that elsewhere. You can do the what was it, the camper thing out near the beach during the off season, in your free time. Roman's got to go after this year. And I understand that it's multiple offensive coordinators that Herbert's dealt with, but he's going to get him killed behind this offensive line. The fact that we're still trying 5 and 7 step drops in a situation where you're playing against a very athletic defensive front. There was a player missing in this game that everyone's aware of, that if he played, I think Herbert probably would have left the game in a wheelchair. And so keeping that in mind, the fact that you still rolled into this situation and allowed your quarterback to be destroyed to the tune of, what was it? How many sacks? 7? Was he sacked 7 times? I don't know, aside from just the offensive line. I don't know if it's, aside from the offensive line and the play calling itself, what the expectation is going forward, because you can't overcome both for 4 quarters of football for the next 4 weeks going into the playoffs. And then if you get into the playoffs, if the play calling is this bad, I don't know what else you expect from this guy. And ultimately, when we're talking about the offensive line, no, you can't for 4 quarters find a way to circumvent a bad offensive line for a full 60 minutes. Like, I totally understand that. But what you have to be able to do is at least create some opportunities to keep your quarterback upright and allow your playmakers to get the ball in their hands in short areas and then create after the catch. Greg Roman's not consistently doing that. And the real problem here is that he's just not creative enough of a mind with regard to the offensive side of the ball. Very good in creating in running schemes if he has all the requisite pieces. But if you take away his trump card, then he's got nothing else. Like, that's the ace of his sleeve, is the running game. If you take that away from him, he's got no plan B. And with a quarterback like Justin Herbert, the warrior that he is, you can only go to that well so many times before you end up ultimately having to pay for it. There's an injury lurking somewhere that he's not going to be able to come back from in just a week. So they're playing it fast and loose with them. And again, super happy that the Chargers pulled this game off. But let's be completely honest. I don't know if he can deal with very many more games like that one. And at this point, Greg Roman's got to figure something out. He's got to put in the extra hours to I don't know, come up with, you got to have a plan B. You got to have a counterpunch. If the initial plan doesn't work, there has to be a backup. In the Steelers game, I thought he figured it out. But since then, it just hasn't been right.
Yeah. We had talked about how he had adjusted in that second half of that Pittsburgh game with a lot of kind of stretching the field and having those wide receiver screens. He threw some nice little time screens to Disley was one of them, and then Vidal was the other one. But yeah, it did. We've said since he got hired that if he was going to stick with, his old Greg Roman ways, that it was just kind of outdated, wasn't going to work in today's NFL. And it felt like if he could make adjustments, he could hopefully be a pretty successful offensive coordinator, but it just doesn't feel like he's consistent enough with the way in which he approaches his game plans. he kind of reverts back to his old ways a lot of the times. And when you've got a quarterback with a hand and a half, it kind of feels like you have to kind of cater to that. And they knew that for a full week. And yet still he was trying to do the same exact thing, and it just was not working. You mentioned Quentin Johnston. I thought he was absolutely terrible yesterday. And I don't mean from a drop pass, which was whatever, but he played so timid and weak yesterday that like I didn't like there was a time at one point where when him and Keenan ran into each other that I wanted him off the field. Like he in the run game, he ran into, I think it was Hampton in the backfield and stopped him 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage because he couldn't get to the block fast enough and somehow ran in the path of the running back, which was terrible. And then there's a comeback route that's going to him. And then, of course, it goes through his hands and then lets Adoree Jackson just kind of ragdoll him. Like, it felt like Adoree got physical with him and QJ shrunk for most of that game. He had like no, even when he made the one catch, he went down on a shoestring tackle. Like his whole thing has been that he can get yards after the catch, but it's just not happening. And if you can't make the guy diving at your feet miss, then I don't know what to tell you, man. He was, and I know he's been off for a little bit and he's coming back from an injury and all that stuff plays a part, but it did not feel like he was ready to play football yesterday. He was just terrible. And I know he didn't get a ton of targets. It said he had 3 when I checked it, but he just felt like such a negative aspect of this offense with everything going on. And then to run into Keenan Allen on that route was silly. I don't know. Keenan's looking over at QJ and QJ's looking forward downfield, and QJ just wasn't looking where he's going. He ran right into Keenan. And so, man, I don't know. He was bad yesterday. There was a lot of good, and we'll get to the defense in a second, but QJ was terrible.
Well, the book's out on QJ. You just have to be physical with him. And those are the games that, yeah, I mean, it's not a coincidence. We can go back in time to the wild card game against the Texans last year. Same thing. You body him up a little bit, especially after a quarter or so, and he will virtually disappear for the remainder of the game. Now, I know there are like the QJ apologists out there that will not be critical whatsoever of him. And then there's some that feel like, us giving him the praise when he deserves it and being critical also, that we are somehow haters of him. We say this all the time, but the truth of the matter is these are the games where it sticks out like a sore thumb. No, it wasn't about the drops. It was about what he did or didn't do after the catch. I mean, he only had, what was it, two receptions, like you mentioned, on 3 targets. He had 8 yards receiving. And as a quote unquote blocker, it's just not what his game is. And you can't have that frame and not be a physical guy. I mean, but at this point, he is what he is. So you have to put him in positions to succeed. But also, dude, you just got to make it happen out there on the field. You're a first-round draft pick. Whether or not you deserved it, completely different story. But you are a supremely athletic, talented guy. You have to come up big in games like this. You can't be dominant or flash when you're going against more finesse type competition. And he has a very finesse game. So I guess that's why it shines there. But there were instances where I just completely forgot that he was on the field yesterday. I mean, now, honestly, nobody in the wide receiver room did any real work whatsoever. We're being completely honest about it. But again, Philly had a plan for that. Not having very much time, as Herbert didn't aid in that whatsoever, sped the clock up for him. But the receivers weren't getting any separation at all across the board. And right now, as far as what the strength of this team is on offense, you could argue the wide receiver room is the deepest and technically all around probably most talented. So if you can't pass the ball, I really do wish they ran it more, which sounds crazy to say of a Greg Roman offense, but it felt like they gave up on it too early in certain instances. But again, just speaking on QJ specifically, man, you can't go ghost like this in these types of games, because this is what lends to the criticisms that you get. You can't be great certain weeks on and off. And then when you're playing against like higher level competition or teams that are going to be more physical with you, be a complete non-factor. It's inexcusable.
Yeah, it felt like Ladd was another guy who just was in prison with Cooper DeJean. It just felt like he was his kryptonite. But and by the way, it felt like Trey Harris again, put together a bunch of good reps and just isn't getting the same playing time as QJ. So it feels like that problem should solve itself, but it just isn't right now. He's just not getting the love that he deserves. I mean, that 18-yard grab that he had was just gorgeous. And then you've got QJ catching a ball over the middle with room to run and just getting tripped up. So and then I think he had like a 1 or 2 yard catch where he just couldn't get moving and got tackled real fast. So I don't know. Hopefully that gets flipped pretty soon here and Trey Harris gets more snaps. But outside of that, I think we got to move on to defense, because we're talking about offense, and there's been, obviously we talked about Justin Herbert and how amazing he was, and then some good on offense, but a lot of stuff that was tough. But defensively, to get, what was it, 5 interceptions? Was it 5 or 4?
4, and what? Hurts threw 4, and then he had the fumble on the same play that he threw the pick. So it was a 5 total with 4 picks. Yeah.
So what do we call that?
Amazing. I don't know.
Yeah, 4 interceptions. That's right.
Defense, again, it's like we've been talking about for weeks. They can't really have an off day. Otherwise, these wins don't happen. And when you consider all the things that they were up against, like, say what you want about the Eagles, they may be in a funk right now, but they're still a very talented offensive team. Like, you have a duo of wide receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith that, I mean, again, you could argue top 4 or 5 in the league pretty easily. I would say I don't think you get a whole lot of pushback on that. And Saquon freaking Barkley, which, granted, Barkley's dealing with a bit of a groin injury, which has slowed him down this year. And if we're being completely honest, like that 50-plus yard TD he had, it essentially amounted to a trick play. Like, you rolled up and hurry up, and you made everyone think you're going to run tush push. Chargers weren't prepared for it. Flip the ball to the outside. Oh, which all of the big runs came to the left side, by the way. Anything that was run up the middle to the right pretty much washed out. So I guess we can actually start by talking about maybe the interior defensive line, and specifically for me, Tyler Tart does not get the credit he deserves. This is why I don't pay attention to PFF. Looking on Twitter today, I saw a post about what his grade was, and it was like in the 40s or 50s. I don't even know what that means for PFF. It just doesn't sound good to me. But I don't understand the grading system. He was probably the main reason on the interior why nothing got going. He muddied everything up almost every opportunity he got. Like I said before, almost all of the big runs from the Eagles came to the left side on the perimeter. Almost nothing up the middle. So let's start with the interior of the defensive line, because collectively they all did a very, very good job keeping Barkley contained for the most part. Again, like I said, on the interior Tart gets flowers for that. You got Jamari Caldwell, who essentially cleaned up the fact, well, he was the reason for the double turnover. Because, after Hurts recovered the ball, he knocked it back out. So he's another guy that was in there making plays, and Caldwell's kind of been an unsung hero on the interior as well, a rookie who's been pretty consistent, specifically against the run, but just being a playmaker. And Deshaun Hand with the big man pick. Listen, I'm not going to fault the dude. He tried to cover it up with 2 hands. But defensive linemen aren't used to carrying the pill, man. It just is what it is. But that is a beautiful play call. Being able to buzz him underneath like that every once in a while, especially when you get into the red zone, you can probably pull that out of your bag and have it work. Because those teams that like to utilize those receivers on crosses underneath that they think they can get on big catch and runs, they're going to try that once they get inside the 10-yard line, because especially when you play against a team that plays a lot of zone and they sink back a little bit farther in those zones than they're supposed to, you can get a guy underneath who can catch the ball and maybe break one tackle and find open space and get like a easy lane into the end zone. But fantastic play call to ask Hand to drop back like that, and it resulted in a huge play, which was significant because, I mean, again, Philly only scored same thing, 1 touchdown. And I mean, both teams only were able to put the ball into the end zone once apiece. But you're talking about situations where if you allow them to get into the end zone or get those points, then this could be a very, very different game. I mean, we're talking about back and forth field goals, the defense playing bend, don't break. But this is what we need from them every single week. And it's a lot to ask for, but it's just kind of where they find themselves. And we'll talk about some of the other positions, but I definitely wanted to give love to the interior defensive line because I don't think they're being shouted out enough.
Yeah, it felt like all the dudes inside flashed. We saw Tito get a tackle for a loss. Aboigbe had a nice play. Deshaun Hand getting the interception. Jamari Caldwell had the strip from Hurts that Troy Dye was able to recover after the interception. Also had a tackle for a loss. So it did feel like a lot of those dudes on the inside, they all had a play to make yesterday, and it was outside of the one broken play off the kind of tush push action that they had where Saquon broke it for a touchdown. They were very good in the run game. And they were able to get some pressure to Hurts up the middle too, which was a nice little mix, because normally we don't see a lot of that. We see a lot of pressure off the edge, but it felt like the D line in general did a really good job. We saw Odafe Owe get a sack on a third down, which kind of knocked them out of field goal range too. They're kind of on the cusp of field goal range, and then Owe gets a sack on third down. They have to punt. That's now his 5th sack on the season. And then we saw Khalil Mack have a nice little tackle for a loss. He was really, really active. Thule, same thing, really active as well. So not just on the inside, the outside too. Pass rushers got to Jalen Hurts. I know it was only 1 sack, but he felt like he was pressured a lot. Even like it felt like there were a lot of rush throws. Even that interception by Dante Jackson was a rush throw because Khalil Mack was right in Jalen Hurts' face and was about to get to him. So, and that was a big pick by Dante, which we'll get to the DBs, I'm sure. But it really did feel like that D-line had a really, really good game, and they absolutely needed it.
Yep. And again, to me, Tyre Tart is the catalyst for the success on the interior yesterday. So, and we can say this for multiple weeks. A guy who's bounced around, felt like he's been, I'm not going to say one of the premier interior guys in the league. In his mind, he thinks he is. But I'm not going to lie, this year, he's played like one of the best interior defensive linemen in the entire NFL. And
it's
that's not
the same
hyperbole.
thing we said about Poona Ford last year. Now drag and drop for Tyre Tart.
So it's about finding guys that fit the scheme and utilizing them correctly. There have been instances where players have been asked to do things that they're not great at. Tart fits perfectly in the scheme, which is why having lost Poona now isn't as big of a deal. Would it have been nice to have both? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a ton about Poona, but I've been paying attention to the Rams. From what I was told, he's doing pretty well. So that's great. But if you're able to manufacture a higher level play on the interior without having to pay for a high, dollar player, great. I still want a dominant interior defensive lineman, by the way. I'm not saying, hey, just avoid that at all costs and go the cheap route. Well, I'm absolutely not. I still want a dominant interior disruptor because I feel like that changes the calculus for everything on defense. So while I like Tyre a ton and I like what he's doing this year, he's still not one of those blue chip guys. He's definitely playing over his head, though. And you mentioned, like, as we're getting into guys in the secondary, Dante Jackson, that pick, twofold. The pressure was great. Dante jumping that route, but I don't know what the hell Devonta Smith was doing. That was the laziest curl route I've ever seen. It looks like he was jogging it as if he didn't think the ball was coming to him, or if the play was going backside, because he did not run it. He didn't run that route half speed. And when I say that, Hurts staring that down, seeing how Smith was running the route and still electing to throw it, terrible QB play. Terrible play all around. But Dante Jackson jumping that, another guy who I feel is like an unsung hero on the defense. Dante Jackson has been a high-level corner this year. Sound familiar again?
Thing with Christian Fulton, like
who can't see the field in Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Yeah.
So they just keep churning these guys out because they understand where their strengths are, the system and who they are. So Dante Jackson is more of a guy who's best in zone where he can keep the ball in front of him and see everything developing, because he's fast and twitchy, which is why he's so good. When he guesses, he's very rarely wrong, and he almost always makes a play when he jumps the ball. If he doesn't pick it, he's getting a PBU, because that's what his skill set allows for. And they're playing him to his skill set. Again, zone corner who you can play. And he's also very physical in run defense as well. Not the biggest guy, but he will come up and stick his nose and get dirty in the run game. The fact that you can play him in different alignments and play him in off coverage, but because he's so fast and twitchy, he can play with like a 10-yard cushion. And if you don't put that ball where it needs to be in the proper timing, if you're not throwing that ball before the receiver comes out of the break, he's going to close that gap in that airspace and be on your receiver's toes in a second.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Jesse Mentor knows how to utilize him. They placed him in the scheme to play the type of football that he was always meant to play, which is why he's having more success right now than what you've seen in the past. So yeah, it's about the scheme, but it's also about selecting the right players for the scheme, because that matters too, almost more than anything.
So just to update you, Puna Ford on the season, and we're stat watching. I'm not watching Puna Ford every week like I am Tier Tart. 16 tackles on the year, 1 sack. Tier Tart has 15 tackles on the year, 1 sack, 1 interception. So, they're
more than comparable.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the season that Christian Fulton had, which got him the contract, and that's why he left, he only had 1 interception on the entire season, and then got kind of washed towards the end of that year, by the way.
I think he was beat up a little bit. He was dealing with some injuries.
Sure.
I think when he came, I don't know if he missed. I think he missed a game or two, and when he came back, he wasn't really himself. But still, Christian Fulton has never been a great corner. Like, that's why they were fine with letting him go in Tennessee. He was very much so replaceable. Again, it's just about the skill set and what the player does well and plugging him in and putting him in position to do it. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Dante Jackson just doing what they already proven themselves to be able to do. Find players that work in the scheme.
Yep. 4 interceptions, 12 pass deflections. He's 7th in the league among DBs. 6th in interceptions. So heck of a season from Dante Jackson, even better than how we remember Christian Fulton last year. So it's crazy, the system that, and we talked about when he got hired, that there are guys that you can just plug and play. And if you play them to their strengths, because when Dante Jackson got burned this season, and he has, he hasn't been perfect, is when he's matched up one-on-one and he's got to go man. But when he's in zone is when he's at his best. And that's why you got so many, but his break on the ball, by the way, is so good. I mean, his back pedal to drop to getting to the football is incredible. And that's why you see so many plays on the balls. And that's why he's had, 4 interceptions and 12 pass deflections this season.
Tremendous footwork and quickness. So the technique's been there. Again, he's a better zone corner than he is in man corner. The Steelers like to play a lot of man-to-man defense. That wasn't really his forte. Not because he's not athletic enough to do it. It's just because he doesn't really have the size to do it. And if he misses or whiffs in press coverage, then he can just get bodied. The guy might not outrun him. He might be able to run in his hip pocket. He just doesn't have the size for those bigger wide receivers. Which, on the other hand, there's another corner who had arguably a bigger day when we talk about just like overall plays being made in Cam Hart. That stood out again. I mean, again, he made the play. Well, he helped to make the play to end the game. And 5th round corner, a guy that he has the requisite skill set to be more of a press man guy. They still don't do a lot of that with him. I still wish they do more of it. I know they like to run a lot of cover 3, cover 2. You can still run press out of that. I wish they would do it more with him, but he's one of those guys that you want to put on a cat like AJ Brown. Now, still, AJ went 6 for 100, but it's AJ Brown. I mean, come on, he's going to have games like that. But
just keep him out of the end zone.
And the biggest thing is Cam Hart just didn't make it easy for him. Like, he did some crafty DB things, like the reason why AJ couldn't catch, there's I forget what quarter that was, kind of that fade ball where he tried to catch it with one hand. It's because Cam kind of pinned one of his hands to the body, but he did it so quickly you couldn't really see it in real time until you saw the replay. But again, he plays a physical brand of corner, and that's what you need with a guy like AJ Brown. So again, finding players that fit your scheme and developing them. Steve Klingscale is a wizard because he's turning these guys around and making them players all within the same season that they're being drafted. And you're seeing the continuous development. Cam had some injury issues last year. He's been much more available this year. He's been much more consistent, and he's looking more like a cornerback one. But when you have two corners that can make plays like this, it does a whole lot for your defense in general. You saw like the coverage was very, very good last night. Very good. And I was a little scared about it because, like I said before, you got two really, really good weapons on the outside. Dallas Goedert definitely did some work on the inside at tight end. Different story. But against teams like this, who clearly you saw this from the beginning of the game, the MO for the Eagles was to loosen the Chargers up by taking deep shots. And then I think they wanted to try to play the run game off of that. And they didn't have a ton of success on those deep balls. You saw like maybe not necessarily busted coverages, but the throws that Hurts did make, he made some really good throws, but there were throws where he had to either layer the ball or put him on a rope to get him to the receiver in tight windows and zone. And he did that a couple of times, but you want to ask him to do that as much as you can because he's not going to do it consistently. I said before that game, maybe 3 or 4 days prior to, that if you ask Jalen Hurts to throw the ball 30 plus times, the Chargers probably had a really good shot at winning this game. Well, he threw it 40. And, we saw the result. But ultimately, when you have DBs that can cover to that degree against a quarterback that's dropping back to throw the ball that many times, there are going to be some mistakes made, and they're going to capitalize on it.
Yeah. So he had that play you're talking about where he broke up the TD pass to A.J. Brown. He had his interception on his own, and then he made the play on that deflection at the very end of the game to put the ball into Tony Jefferson's hands, which, I mean, it felt like he was like a diving shortstop. Like he dove vertical to the ground or horizontal to the ground. What am I saying? Horizontal to the ground and stuck his hand out and got the deflection, which was a crazy acrobatic play from Cam Hart. And then Tony Jefferson gets the feet down, make sure he stays in bounds. By the way, a nice little touch by Deion Henley, making sure Tony Jefferson didn't get up to celebrate because he wasn't touched, and kind of tackled him there to make sure that he knew that he was down and didn't want to get up and go and run just in case. That was pretty funny. But he had the game. He felt like he was the one that helps obviously seal the victory, but he was so good throughout that game. We're not even talking about Tarheeb still had a pretty good game too. And I know that there was, some issues, a little leaky on the back end, but they just could not capitalize. And that kind of happened against the Broncos too, but the Broncos couldn't capitalize then either. They had some open receivers on the back end as well and couldn't complete those passes either. It's just, it is what it is. And the Chargers, got lucky and the Eagles just could not capitalize. But there was one time where Tarheeb still fought through a block and tackled Devontae Smith short on a third down and forced a punt. He was pretty good yesterday too. So it felt like defensively, there were some issues. A.J. Brown got his and Goddard got his. And, Barkley broke one play on kind of a broken play that felt like we all thought a tush push was coming, and it was a great call.
Great play call.
Yeah. Nothing much you can do about that. But outside of that, man, you can't ask for more from that defense. And they needed every single turnover, every fumble recovery. They needed every single one to get that win, because 22-19 and getting that game in overtime was huge. So obviously the defense, and Harbaugh gave a game ball the entire defense, which it feels like he's just loosey goosey with this whole handing out a game ball situation, which I think they should just get rid of entirely. But defense deserved it because every single one of them showed out.
Another guy that probably didn't have a ton of splash plays, but has been a very real difference maker the last 2 weeks, is someone that we've been waiting for to kind of reemerge. Some people think he's fallen off a little bit. I think there have been some reasons here or there for it. We all know some personal, but then also being sick in the past. Deion Henley. The reason why I'm saying this is because last week we saw him being utilized in the defense in a way that we haven't really throughout the season. Mentor used him as a movable chess piece. He lined up at edge a ton. He was doing simulated pressures, going into drops, rushing off of the edge, being a part of defending the run game and having a lot of success. A play that's probably going unnoticed yesterday came in the second quarter where he spied it. It was funny because when I'm watching the play, You see him lined up to the opposite hash. I think it was to the boundary hash, and he's walking. It's almost as if he's hiding behind the defensive line, but it was because he was spying. And Hurts takes off, and you see Deion make a beeline, catches Hurts on an angle, and almost forces a fumble. But he stopped the play, to which I don't know if a field goal came off of that or if it was a punt, but it was a third down stop that forced either a punt or a field goal attempt. I think it might have actually been the field goal that they missed. But Deion actually catches Hurts backside on a fantastic spy call, tracks him down, and makes a phenomenal play. And those, again, timely plays are everything in games like this. So last week, he was being a little bit of a nuisance moving around. And then yesterday I saw him flash a little bit. And like you said, tackling Unc, because it's interesting that like the younger player did the vet move.
Yeah, on the vet. Yeah, totally. So while we've covered offense and defense, I mean, obviously we don't cover special teams a lot here, but two little quick shout outs. One small one.
Of course.
Yeah. Delshon Phillips yesterday, dude, was an animal. He had two monster hits. I think he had like 3 or 4 tackles on special teams alone. He was awesome yesterday on return team. But I have no doubt that Cameron Dicker is completing every kick that he gets a chance to kick. I walked away twice when he was about to kick because I knew he was going to make it and it was going to be commercial and I needed to go, grab a drink, whatever it was. I didn't need to watch him kick because he is so automatic that there is no doubt that he's going to make it. And whether the game's on the line, it's to win it, or it's a 50-yarder just to kind of bring it within striking distance, he's going to hit it almost every single time. And it just feels like he is so, and I really, really don't want this to go unnoticed. He is so consistent and so good that he deserves flowers. And I feel like we all got to be present more when Cam Dicker's kicking, because to have a kicker this good is an anomaly. And I know the Chargers have had some good ones, but man, to have a kicker this good right now, currently, he deserves so much appreciation. And hopefully he'll be a Pro Bowler and all that other stuff that he deserves. But he was absolutely awesome yesterday, and he's been that way all season and throughout his whole career with the Chargers, to be honest.
Chargers fans, if you've been around long enough, you had the Nate Kading experience, who was at one time the most accurate kicker in the NFL, and it never felt like this, to be honest with you. Like, he was very good, but same thing that you said. As long as the operation is good, and even like in a few weeks when the operation was terrible and he was still making it happen. He's still making it happen.
Yeah.
You just don't fear him missing. When it happens, you're literally shocked. There have been instances where he's tried that out on the field, and like you said, you would walk off to go do something. I wouldn't even care what the distance was. Like, I wouldn't even check to see, wait, how long is this kick? Like, no, it's Dicker. Okay, cool. This is going through. Because if they're sending him out there, then it's within his range. That's the way I look at it. So it definitely can't be too far. That's not how I feel about it at all. If he tries out on the field, it's because they know that it's more than viable that the ball's going to go through the uprights. Even his kicks that look like they're going to veer off, like it's almost like I'm not a golf guy, but the way that the trajectory of the ball is hilarious, because it's almost like he plots it this way. It'll start off looking like it'll go wide right, and then it just caroms back to the inside almost perfectly through the uprights. And even when it looks like it's off, I'm still not worried, because I know that hook is coming. Yeah. And the dude's just, I mean, it's been a total godsend. We've been through our fair share of kickers, man. Remember Youngway Koo, what's my guy? Badgley.
Yeah, Michael Badgley.
Who trademarked Money Badger. We should have known at that point it was going to go downhill. But anyway, now we've got a kicker that's here, hopefully for the long run. And then you've got that part or that phase of the game taken care of, because kickers are vital, man. And they have one job. This is what you're expected to go out and do every week. And there's no doubt when he goes out on the field that it's going to be 3 points. It's just automatic.
Yeah, we've been through a John Carney and a Nate Kading, Nick Novak.
So many names.
Youngway, Badgley, But Cam Dicker, man, it just and maybe
Oh, I'm forgetting some. Who's the guy that went to Jacksonville?
oh yeah,
Mm,
Lambo, Josh Lambo.
Josh Lambo.
Yeah. There's a
Mhm.
point where they had to get like Nick Rose. I remember man.
Mhm.
And, who's the dude who went to the Commanders?
The
Chase
one that was
McLaughlin.
okay. Who did they have that came from the Browns? Did you say was that Nick Rose? Who was the one who came from the Browns or went to the Browns? It's literally been it feels like 15 different guys in the last 6, 7 years.
Man, I can't remember.
But and a lot of these guys leave and they find success elsewhere, which is what made
yeah.
it really frustrating because Younghoe Koo was like top 2, 3 kicker in the league
Yeah.
like 2 years ago.
Now he's kicking the ground.
Yeah, that boy. That looked like it hurt, by the way.
Dustin Hopkins. Oh yeah. Dustin
Hopkins.
Hopkins was that's yeah.
Yep, that
was
was
the
it.
one.
So
Yeah.
like the revolving door of who's at kicker. So now
Yeah.
that you have one, hold on to them, cherish them because these guys are rare. Like
Yeah.
this level kicker is rare, and the Chargers found themselves. They're lucky because I mean, wasn't he a Colt at one point? Didn't he start off in Indy?
Did he?
I
He
want
could
to
have.
say Indy
I don't remember that,
potentially.
but I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's I'm gonna look that up, but let's get to some questions because we got a bunch of them during this. Blazing Bolts. Thoughts on being the 5 seed. So if the season ended today, they'd play the 4 seed, who are the Steelers, which seems like a nice matchup. But what are your thoughts right now on 5?
I'm cool with it, man. My thing is just getting to the dance at this point. I'm not as worried about trying to catch the Broncos. Like, again, like I said before, this team being 9-4 with everything that is having to go through adversity wise, for me, feels like a small miracle in itself. So I'm not complaining on how they do it because once you get in the dance, anything goes. I'm just curious about what changes once they do make it into the playoffs as far as like game planning goes, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't have a preference. I'm cool with it either way.
Playoffs are the goal right now, and whether it's 5 or 8, I don't care about that. But listen to this. So Dicker, when undrafted, was picked up by the Rams. He ends up getting cut and then picked up by the Ravens later that year.
Of course.
He was both a punter and a kicker for the Ravens. But then he was waived. So he was part of the first wave of cuts with the Rams. Got picked up by the Ravens, played in the last preseason game and gets cut by the Ravens. Then a couple months later, Jake Elliott gets hurt for the Eagles. Cam Dicker goes to the Eagles.
He was an Eagle.
2 field goals for the Eagles against the Cardinals, one of which was a game-winning kick, of course, because that's Cameron Dicker. He was named Special Teams Player of the Year, but then Jake Elliott got healthy of the week. Excuse me. Thank you. The Special Teams Player of the Week that week. Ends up getting Jake Elliott comes back the following week, gets cut by the Eagles, and then the Chargers sign him to their practice squad.
Philly's the gift that keeps on giving, huh?
So he's on he's on the practice squad, and then Dustin Hopkins gets injured. Remember that? Hopkins was kicking great. Then Dicker comes on.
And that was a competition.
Then Hopkins never got a job back. Dicker kept it, and now he's just feels like on his way to being the best Chargers kicker of all time.
Funny because the Dicker the kicker name started about 15 miles from where I'm sitting right now at UT. He was a University of Texas guy, and that's where the whole Dicker the kicker thing started.
That is true. Yep. He was, yeah. And he has made, I don't know if this is up to date, but he's made 116 out of 124 kicks, a 93.5% field goal percentage.
And still isn't recognized universally as one of the top kickers in the league. But I'm starting to just believe this is a Chargers thing. It doesn't matter who the player is. If they play for the Chargers, they're not going to get the recognition they deserve. I've just come to that conclusion. So
this is just a kind of like a Rodney Dangerfield type situation with the Chargers.
Yeah,
they just can't get
no respect. No respect at all.
All right. From the Oracle, and then a bunch of numbers. Is Bozeman the worst Chargers player of all time? No way that could be the case.
I don't want to throw out too many names. There's a long list of guys.
I need some.
I'm going to throw a name out there that sounds random, but I hated him.
Okay.
Terrence Kill.
Oh, okay. DB, you hated him that much?
I did not like Terrence Kill's game because it was one of those. And all right, so I'm going to compare him to another Chargers player that played safety.
Marlon McCree?
No, not McCree. Well, of course, we know Marlon was going to pop up at some point. But I was trying to go probably one of the lesser known ones that really chapped my eye. Terrence Kill was one I didn't like at all. Of course, it's like Buster Davis. Yes, I know the joke. Craig Davis. We have the same first name.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. But the Terrence Kill thing was funny because he kind of reminded me of a Charger that came a little bit later, who was nicknamed the Hitman, and he knocked himself out a lot. Number 37.
Okay.
That I know a lot of fans were pretty fond of, but I feel like he and Kill's game were pretty similar, except Kill was they were about equally as bad as in coverage. And I think that's why I probably took some of my anger out on 37. I'm not saying his name on purpose out of respect. I know he does like Charges Weekly and stuff like that. So y'all know what I'm talking about. Oh boy. Worse than Bradley Bozeman? I mean, he's definitely got to be in the top 5 to 7.
Was Sam Tevy or Storm Norton better than Bradley Bozeman?
There was a stretch where Sam Tevy was okay.
As a right tackle? Okay.
It was a stretch when he was all right. Never good, just okay.
What about Jeremy Clary?
I have no idea why people love Jeremy Clary so much.
Me neither, because he's part of a really good offensive line.
Probably
but he was
so.
always
So if
a
you
mess.
cover up, if you can cover up some of the warts, I understand.
Yeah.
I keep going towards the offensive line, but I'm trying not to because there were so many guys that went in and out there. I'm trying to think of some more, maybe some like nondescript names.
I mean, obviously Ryan Leaf was a big disappointment. Larry English,
yeah, those are the
Davis.
obvious ones.
Yeah,
Larry English was horrible.
Yeah, Trey McKitty. Can we throw in a recent name, 3rd round pick?
I feel bad because I tried to make that a thing. I thought he was going to be all right, man. But
Trey McKitty?
They had to reach for him in the
way.
draft because they needed a pass receiving tight end, which I thought he was. And he showed some flashes there. I think he started somewhere and ended at Georgia, or started at Georgia and went somewhere else. I forget how that worked, but he seemed like an ascending player, and I thought they got a steal. That absolutely didn't work out. Yeah.
All right.
You draft a guy named Buster Davis, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Just saying.
How do you feel about? We can move off this because this could get depressing pretty fast. Michael Flores. Can we at least try Trevor Penning at right guard? Becton is a revolving door.
Penning, I didn't hate Penning at right tackle last night, as long as you're asking him to run block and protection is not a thing. I was fine with him.
He had a pretty nice block on a Hampton. Or
if he can do nothing else, he's an average to above average run blocker.
Sure,
which is fine with me. Becton, I'm tired of the Becton thing. Again, I'm trying to be respectful because this is who we got to roll with for the remainder of the season. Dude, 6'7", 350 pounds, and he's literally big for no reason at all. Just a complete waste of size and athleticism. I know I said I was trying not to be disrespectful, but I just gotta be honest. I don't understand what motivates you, man. What makes you want to get out there and
so good
impose your will? Well, he was good in between 2 all-pro players. That's the problem. Like if you put him next to Joe Alt, I think it would have been better, but you still would have had him next to Bradley Bozeman. So yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
But he was masked last year, and he played for also the best offensive line coach in the NFL. So all of that helped, man. It's the perfect storm. I keep going back to Jalen Hurts. When you're in situations surrounded by great players, then it probably either ups your level of play or makes you look better than what you actually are. One of the two things. And he's just not. There was a reason why the dude was drafted as a tackle, and they had to move him to guard because he couldn't cut it at tackle. That was a project. And they made it work in Philly because that's kind of what Philly does. And they had the requisite pieces surrounding him to make it happen, and they had the coaching to go along with it. The Chargers don't have great offensive line coaching. So, I mean, I think, I mean, we can have your opinions on it, but it's just not shown itself to be the case. We haven't really seen a development from any of those guys. I mean, Zion's been okay. Hasn't been great. I would say that he's, overall so far in his career been a disappointment and hasn't had the development to play nearly at the level that we thought he could. The only two real standouts on the offensive line are guys that were no doubt producers in the first round at your two tackles. We thought Zion was going to be that guy at guard, and it just hasn't panned out. So it's another one of those kind of like Tom Telesco things where it's like, well, yeah, you drafted like the best guy at the position in the first round. So yeah, he should pan out. But when you got these guys that need a little work, it's going to take a couple of seasons to get them developed. The Chargers just haven't shown that they've been able to do that, specifically on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sold on Trevor Penning. I don't think that makes a real big difference to me at right guard. So I had high hopes for Becton. I thought, even with who he's playing against or next to, it felt like he really showed the drive, the effort. It just felt like in New York, none of it really made sense. They thought he was overweight, and there's a lot of other outside things going on. And then last year, it felt like it all fell into place on a prove-it contract. And he even went late in free agency, and the Chargers ended up getting him. I just felt like he was going to be motivated under Harbaugh, but it's just not clicking right now.
When around the league, the questions about you pertain to like your level of effort and your want to
motivation
that sticks with you.
Yeah.
So, I'm not surprised it took him to go like, day 2-3 free agency. Like, it kind of tracks for, some of the stuff that's been said about him. So definitely has all of the size and athleticism to play the position at a high level. He could be like, just based on his archetype, he could be great. He just, something's missing.
All right. Next question from Casey Linzemeyer. If Mike McDaniel gets fired, should we get him as OC? I would say if Mike McDaniel gets fired, he's going to be a hot commodity as an offensive coordinator.
Listen, man, I'm open to anybody who's not Greg Roman at this point.
Yeah.
Just about. So, I mean, we can go through some names at, later on once the season's over with. At this point, I just don't want Greg Roman back. I don't think it's another one of those perfect storm things. He has to have everything in place in order for his offense to be successful. He's got no counter punches at all. It just has to be all set up for him. All his guys have to be available to him, or he's useless, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great idea right now because I think Roman's just not cutting it. But obviously, we got to see who else is available. But yeah, it makes sense to me.
Brian Daboll's hanging out there too.
Yeah,
if he can't, he might not be much as a head coach, but he can call plays.
Oh,
he's proven that.
Could he ever? Yeah. Let's see. I'm looking for more questions. I don't know. Let's see. There was a couple more. I can't. Now I lost them. All right. Guys, should we, from Hannah Dairy, should we hope this was the last time we saw Darius Davis in a Chargers uniform? He is soft as Travis Benjamin. Activate Delvion or KLS. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
He hasn't been right, man. Like, I don't know. Like, he had the knee injury. He came back. It just, the speed isn't there. The acceleration isn't there the way that it was last season. And now this is a completely different injury now. Was it an ankle, something along those lines? Another lower body injury to a speed guy, smaller. I would not be surprised if this is the last year that Darius is around, because he had that one really good year as a return man. Was that his rookie year, or was he? What was last year? Maybe I'm getting my years mixed up. Was he? What was that, last year or the rookie season? His best year as a returner. I cannot recall.
It was his rookie year.
Okay. They tried to get him more involved in the offense, and that didn't really pan out. And he got hurt, and then he had less of a role. And the funny thing is, the one time you had Ladd McConkey return a punt, he made like the most tremendous punt return we've ever seen or have seen in the last couple of years. It got called back. But it just goes to show you that there are other options. I mean, I don't know that I want Ladd out there returning punts regularly because you need him as one of your primary passing game options. But yeah, if he's not offering what he's best at as a returner, then he's just taking up a roster spot. You have to find somebody who can be more consistent. Maybe the injuries, have taken their toll this year, but he's a smaller guy, and he's probably going to have to deal with that throughout his career. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call him Travis Benjamin because Travis Benjamin turned into the cowardly lion at some point during his career. I don't think Deidy's doing that exactly. I just think Deidy thinks he has the wills to get away from everybody, and he doesn't. He is very, very fast, but he's not Tyreek Hill fast, but he is very, very fast. And I think sometimes he overestimates his own speed. He's also not extremely shifty either. He's a straight line speed guy. He's a one cut and go dude. So, that's why he's a better, or has been a better punt returner than he is a kick returner, because if you ask him to make too many moves, then he slows down. His start and stop is not all that great. But yeah, long story less long, I would not be surprised if this is his last year on the roster.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. It feels like he is playing a little scared right now. I don't know. That speed kind of, fell off a cliff a little bit. Mm-hmm. It just feels like he is no longer trying to break that big play anymore. He's just trying to, get as much yards as he can and get down or get out of bounds.
Didn't see him retreat minus 10 yards back into the end zone. Yeah. I haven't seen that quite yet. So maybe there's still hope.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Blazing Bolts, we have a chance to end the Chiefs season. That is true. Chargers get the win. There will be no more.
So is it that the Chargers have to win and the Texans win in order for them to be totally out of it? Or are they knocked out with just the Chargers win?
I thought it was just the Chargers win, but I might be wrong. Chat will let us know. Eddie Dale Jr., how much are you paying for a Zion extension? $0.0. I am not extending Zion. I am out.
Look, man.
With $100 million in my back pocket, Zion Johnson isn't getting a dime from me. I will find somebody on the market or draft one.
Like you're saying, they have way too much bread to play with next year to flirt with that. I mean, what you've learned this year is you can't do it cheap. You can't. Do what you have to do in the draft and also get some guys in free agency. I haven't even looked at who's going to be a free. Well, there's Tyler Linderbaum, but he's probably going to get franchised with the Ravens. Anyway, off on a tangent there. But no, Zion, nah, bro. I think the experiment has to end, even though the reason why he hasn't had as much attention is because Bozeman is way worse. So the bar isn't super high. You just can't be as bad as the dude you're playing next to. And I'm not saying that Zion's been a complete train wreck this year. I think he's been okay, somewhat serviceable, but I mean, he didn't pick up the 5th-year option. So I think they know. I think the writing's pretty much on the wall at this point. This was your prove it year, and I'm not sure that he's proven a whole lot.
No, I am not for re-signing Zion. And I don't care what the market looks like in terms of free agents. I can't do another year of this.
I wouldn't be shocked if they did, though, man. It feels like they brought back Bozeman, man.
Yeah, I know. It's unpredictable. All right, very last question here, and I think it's a good one to end on here. From Ominous VL, what are your thoughts on Phillip Rivers? He has joined the Colts practice squad. How are you feeling about old Phillip? I have a couple questions. When this happened, I had 2 questions that came to mind. One, he signed a 1-year contract one-day contract with the Chargers to retire as a Charger. Does that mean he was under contract for the Chargers, and so he's got to get a draft pick? The Chargers got to get a pick from this if he's under contract for the team. But maybe that's just ceremonial. I don't know.
That wouldn't stick. I don't think that's going to stick.
It should. I want an extra pick.
I know.
Second, he's up for the Hall of Fame right now.
That was the thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah. So does that reset and he's got to wait another 5 years, or can he?
Yeah.
be the first player ever to get elected. Well, voting's already going on. So if he already got voted in, they're going to stop it. They're going to stop the count on a Phillip Rivers.
It's a very good
vote.
question.
You can't stop the count.
Also, I'm not in Phil's head, but I don't think he believes he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer anyway.
And also, he's in the practice squad. So I don't think, all right, so the chat's telling us he's on the practice squad. So it doesn't reset unless he's on the active roster.
That feels like it's cheating, but okay.
And it says, yes, they will stop, is what Jaguar man halftime says. But
I've never cared to even look into a situation like this because I thought
I
it was a joke. I thought it was a joke when I saw it at first. But also, here's my question: have y'all seen Phil lately?
Yeah, I know he does not look like he's in football shape, but I also
Phil gonna have to trot out there in some triple XL trousers, man. He's been living good the last couple of years. So I don't know.
And he's been out of football a while. Is he really football ready? I mean, I've seen him in interviews. Or at least like, shots of him on the sideline, and I wouldn't say he looks like he's in football shape, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean,
but to be honest, I would love for him to lead a Colts team to the playoffs.
He clearly loved playing for that organization. And then the flip side to this is like he and Shane Steichen are really, really good friends. So I'm sure that probably has something to do with it. And because of that, I'm not shocked that it wasn't one of the first phone calls he made. Now, how viable an option he is, I don't know, because Phil was never known for being the most in shape guy. He was never really known for having really any top tier attributes per se, aside from like accuracy. So 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, who hasn't thrown a football in a few years, who was already immobile, like you might as well just like sit him in the backfield in a lazy boy or something, because you're not getting any mobility out of him. So I don't know, man. I mean, I understand the desperation here, but you mean to tell me like, is Anthony Richardson that bad? Is he still hurt? Like, I mean, yes, Anthony Richardson is bad.
Yeah.
But to the point to where you'd be willing to play Phillip Rivers before him.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's crazy. I think about that too.
Well, also like your offense is predicated on the run game. I think Anthony Richardson would probably better suit what you are right now because you have the best running back in football and you run first. So he could add to that. Again, kind of sort of play a Jalen Hurts type role.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the adjustment you would have to make in your playbook. So yeah, I mean, you made it work with Daniel Jones.
I would absolutely hate for the Chargers to face Phillip Rivers in the playoffs.
That's the other thing I don't want to see.
Nightmare scenario.
That's the other thing I want to see. Anytime Phil drops back and Khalil Mack smashes him, I would die inside just a little bit. Every single time. Nah, come on, man. I don't want to see that. Not 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, man. Come on, dude. I don't want that for you. Like your 15 kids don't want that for you. Sir, you're a grandfather. Stop the madness.
Yeah, he feels like he's about to be a great grandfather with the way that family's going. It looks like he has are we talking about Anthony Richardson has an orbital bone fracture? Is that
okay? So when he smacked himself in the face with the was that a PT band or something like pregame? That random injury. I didn't know he was still out. I thought he had. Okay, I thought they had activated him since then. Thanks for getting me caught up because I mean, again, I could care less about the Colts, so I don't keep up with them. But yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know he was still out. Yikes.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe. Join the Patreon if you are not already a part. You know where to follow us on Twitter and everything else. We really, really appreciate you guys joining us the day after. This was super fun. The game was awesome, and we appreciate everybody that tuned in today. We will see you next time, and thank you guys so much.
Salute.